Like it's not used to it. And then the second one is yours like aren't as bad as mine, but my cord is so short. I'm gonna be doing some crazy yoga poses because I'm gonna get uncomfortable
You're
multiple times during this.
Laying down, like you want me to paint you like one of my French girls, man.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what
okay,
that's what you're
all
looking
right.
like right now. I don't
All
know.
right.
I'm about to do it, honestly. All right, so we are now in step 2 of the 4-hour work week by Ferry.
By Ferry.
Yeah, Ferry.
Timothy Ferris.
Timothy Ferris. Great guy, this guy.
Uh-huh.
One of the best so far. This second step was like elimination. Yeah.
It was.
Isn't that what it was?
Elimination, yep.
So the first one was definition, and we talked about that on the previous episode that probably won't go out.
Yeah, so get fucked.
Unless it's like an exclusive. You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
To be paid to hear me breathe into your ear. And the first one was all about just basically defining out what your problems and issues are and different techniques, I guess, for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to it, but I'm blanking.
For definition?
Yeah, for definition.
Yeah, it was just kind of, I guess I would say it's just more of like getting your starting point and knowing your end goals. Because I feel like if you don't know those two, you don't really know where you're going.
Yeah, kind of like a planning phase for your success.
Mm-hmm.
So the second one, elimination, is basically kind of centered around making your time more worthwhile, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, it's all about efficiency.
Yeah, being more productive.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that we were going to cover today had to do basically with this idea of being busy just for the sake of being busy. What are you smiling about?
I love this, dude. The concept of like busy for the sake of being busy.
Yeah, because you and I just happen to be in a friend group who just centers their days around being busy for the sake of being busy.
So, like, I guess touch on that a bit more. Can you like expand on being busy for the sake of being busy?
Yeah, like
for anyone who's like unfamiliar with the concept.
It's kind of just that idea of filling your day with all this stuff that you tell yourself you like have to do or get to do or whatever you want to tell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not actually important to anything that you want to turn your life into. So like, I don't know, saying that you have to go to the SGA office at school to go try to get snacks, and then you're walking around for like 20 minutes just talking about absolutely nothing, yapping, so to speak.
Well, all right. Well, hold on. I can't function without my snacks, man.
Oh my God.
You gotta. Hungry brain is an inefficient brain.
What did I say the other day? I said, don't order food when you're hungry.
Yeah, that's stupid.
And you
That's
got freaked
dumb.
out on me.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
It's like,
But
that's the
the
concept of
whole
like going to the
point.
grocery store. Like, you don't go shopping for groceries when you're hungry. Then you end up spending more money than you want to.
I see what you're saying, but in the situation, you don't want to order pizza.
Dude,
Our options were either order pizza and pay like $10, or we starve ourselves.
starving's cheap, man. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God.
So our first like talking point here, I guess. One of the quotes from this part of the book says, "Being busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking, and indiscriminate action." So when I first read that, at least the indiscriminate action part kind of made me think a little bit about what that kind of meant.
Okay.
And I think it to me was just like acting without really thinking. Like, you just do it at all times rather than like preserving your acting.
I see. Okay. Well, I kind of took it a different way, at least for indiscriminate action. In my mind, it was like acting without a purpose. I do it all the time. Like, especially when it comes to homework, dude. You give me so much shit because I make my little to-do lists.
Yeah,
Exactly. In the library rooms, and bro, it helps me visualize.
You'll spend like 20 minutes doing a to-do list, and then the actual assignment that you're doing literally would have took you 5.
Yeah, but now I get to plan out what else I gotta do.
No, you just wasted 20 minutes of your time. That's a third of an hour. Well, if you work $20 an hour, you just wasted I don't know, like $7.
Quick maths.
Quick maths.
But yeah, I think it's just like doing things without, I guess, purpose or direction to it. So
Yeah.
like checking your email, because like, oh, productive people check their emails. I'll check my email. But like, I feel like if one of the things like this, and it relates to the first chapter too, about having goals and having like an end goal and a plan and all of that stuff. But there's no point in being productive if there's not a goal at the end of it.
Yeah, and even if you're being productive to get to that goal, there's like a... All right.
We're back.
Technical difficulties. Somebody forgot to put batteries in the thing. I don't know who.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So
Who was running this shit?
the recording just cut out in the middle. We were in our flow state too. So now we got to get back into it.
Maybe if I lay back down, it'll help.
Yeah, get back into your French girl position.
Oh, don't phrase it like that. Never say that
Come
again.
on, man. It's your French girl spot.
Never say that again.
All right. So you were talking before about like emails when it comes to just being productive for no reason.
Yeah, it's like being productive for productive's sake, or for like productivity's sake.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that I do that lately when it comes to checking my like bank accounts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'll just go through like Amex, B of A, like all the other accounts that I have with the credit cards and shit, and my investment account, and my cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Like there's
right?
no change to it. But I'm doing it because I just feel like, oh, I'm on my shit because I'm looking at my money.
Yeah.
But it's not doing anything.
I noticed pretty similarly, I was doing the same thing with stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've gotten a lot better about that. But before, I'd just be like, what's the market looking like today?
Yeah.
I ain't investing shit, man.
Exactly.
I throw in like $200 a month, maybe.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I like finally, like today at my internship, I put my direct deposit as going straight into my IRA.
Oh, yeah.
Because I only make like $300 maybe like every 2 weeks from the internship.
Uh-huh.
Because a bulk of my money comes from my other job.
Yeah.
So I just figured I might as well just have that go directly into the IRA instead, so that I can get up to that like $6,500 mark.
Yeah. Would you find like a ETF or a stock that you're gonna put it in, like for your IRA? Or
Right now, the money I have in there right now, which is only like 200, is just in like two different, basically S&P 500 stocks, like ETFs.
I see.
I think once I get to like the 1,000 mark, I'll start putting a little bit of money just in like more volatile assets, I guess.
Okay.
Which is all going to be around like big data and machine learning.
Big old data.
Oh man, I should have got water or something. My throat is already scratchy as hell.
I'd say you want to take a little pause.
Nah, no pause.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. Hold on, let me take a sip of my water real quick.
Okay, that's fine. Anyways, moving further into this topic of busy for the sake of being busy, there's two truisms that Ferry kind of goes over. And he says, the first one is doing something unimportant well does not make it important. And the second one is requiring a lot of time does not make a task important. I think the second one hits home a little more, just because, like, if you're sitting there and your assignment took you like 6 hours to do,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean it's a very important thing for you to do. Like it could have very well been busy for the sake of being busy. And I say this all the time. I'm not encouraging people to commit academic dishonesty, okay?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
But Chat Gibby T, that guy, he knows how to save you some damn time.
He does.
And time is at the essence. Time is money.
It is.
So if I have to choose between spending 8 hours on an assignment that really isn't that important to me, or 20 minutes because my boy Gibby helped me out,
Yeah.
which I'm not saying he does.
No, I'm just like hypothetically.
Hypothetically,
Of course.
I'm going with 20 minutes.
Yeah. See, that's the first one. doing something unimportant well does not make it important.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a tricky one for me.
You think so?
In the sense of, like, I guess importantness, if that's not a word it is now.
Mhm.
It's so subjective. Like,
Yeah.
what's important to, like, even when it comes down to, like, academics, like, one class for somebody may be super important. That's not saying it's because, like, it's for their major or anything. It is people value how much effort they put in academics differently, just depending on the person.
Yeah.
So the same, like, homework assignment is super important to one person, whereas the person saying next to them in class, like, doesn't give a fuck, and, like, they'll like cheat on it.
I guess, yeah, like, importance is very dependent on the point of view, like whoever is deciding whether it's important or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the same time, I think these truisms are more kind of based for people to kind of reflect on whether or not something really is important. Like, if you really think something is important because it is, or just because it takes a lot of time, or because you do it well. Like, I feel like I can brush my teeth pretty well. Maybe it's not as important as people are trying to make it out to be.
So, are you advising people to not brush their teeth?
No.
Because that's what I'm hearing.
No. A disclaimer on this podcast, I am not a doctor.
Brushing your teeth is not important, Anthony Caraballo.
No, I'm not a doctor or dentist. Do not take any dental advice from me.
You've heard it here first.
I'm just saying that
dental hygiene is not important.
Some things that take a little longer than they should don't need to be done as long because they're not important. Okay, let's move on to the next topic here.
2 disclaimers in 5 minutes is crazy, by the way.
Yeah, we're going to be on this thing forever. We don't keep moving forward here. Trucking along to Parkinson's and Pareto's Law.
Yeah.
You can explain this one, because I know you put this one down.
Yeah, I did put this one down. So, Pareto's Law is basically the principle, I guess the theory, that 80% of your outputs come from 20% of your inputs.
What does that mean?
And to put it into, I guess, an example would be like a business, for example.
Okay.
80% of a business's revenue or profit comes from, if according to this theory, comes from 20% of its customers.
Gotcha.
And, like, you can apply this to a lot of things in your life. Like, I'm sure if you just kind of reflect and look over your day, 80% of the moments of, like, happiness and joy, or moments you're enjoying yourself, probably came from around 20% of the people that you interacted with.
I was gonna say I think that was this part I liked the most in this topic of the book, was relating it to people. Like, I feel like it's hard for, like, the common audience that isn't involved in sales or anything to really use this principle to their advantage, because they don't have clients that they're worried about. But everybody has people in their lives, and the idea that, like, 20% of those people actually, like, cause in either 80% of your happiness or 80% of your unhappiness. Yeah. And being willing to cut those people out, or, like,
cut out the fluff.
Yeah, cut out the fluff and the fat in your life to get rid of that unhappiness. Yeah. And only focus on the people that make your life happy is something I think everybody could kind of take.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of ties into the busy for the sake of busy. Yeah. Because the book kind of touched on it here. And I don't really like going into how, because I feel like a lot of, like, self-help books and, like, self-improvement are like, the way society has programmed you. Like, I think a lot of times that's bullshit. Right. But the book does make a reference to that a lot of people traditionally would work 9 to 5 jobs. Yeah. And it's just the way they were raised and just what they were around when people grew up. If you're not being productive, if you're not doing stuff from, like, 9 to 5, then they're not, like, being productive.
Yeah. Then they're doing something wrong, basically.
Yeah, which, in a sense, I don't know if I completely agree with that, but also at the same time, I know that, like, I feel like even if I do get all my homework done within 4 hours and I have the rest of the day free, I feel like I should be doing other stuff because I don't feel productive. Even if I did, like, even if I woke up, I was like, I'm going to do all this stuff today, and I finished it before noon, sure, I feel productive. But now those extra 7 hours, I'm like, oh, shit, what do I do?
Yeah, I think, and that's also talked about in this chapter too, and we don't really have it here on our topics or anything, but I do remember reading something about Ferry saying that like testing yourself to be okay with being bored.
Yeah.
Like that's hard for people to do.
I think it also like it can get into like a very toxic cycle where like you push yourself so far to be productive, and like let's say you do finish all your shit before noon. You have those extra 7 hours before like you go to sleep or whatever. And you're like, well, maybe I get the assignments like tomorrow, like the assignments like their upcoming ones. I'll be even more productive because I'll do the shit that's due next week.
You just keep trying to fill your day with shit.
Yeah, and then it's just like you never get a break because it's whether it's school, business, sports, life, like shit doesn't stop coming. Like life never takes a break.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of scary to take that break because you feel like you could be improving more or getting more done.
You feel like you're missing out.
Yeah. And even though in reality, you're probably not doing your best work if you just keep filling your day with everything. Mm-hmm. You also not, I don't know, you're not probably very happy either.
No, because I just feel like, and like after a while, I just feel like you never get a break. Because you're just always doing shit. And you're like, fuck, my life is so busy. But I feel like if you really boil it down and look at the 80-20 and kind of start to like really analyze like, okay, do I really need to do this, or can I like wait for another day? Yeah,
and I mean, I just because it's a nice segue, we can jump back to those laws too. But they do this case study with this guy Charney, and one of the things that Charney ends up having to ask himself, basically, just long story short, Charney is somebody who makes like $500,000 a year, doing his own business. I forgot what it was, but that was what his income was yearly. And he was super unhappy, and he like came to Ferry, I think, or somebody in the case study, and asked for advice on like what to do about his situation. And whoever gives him the advice, I'm assuming it's Ferry. I'm just going to say it's Ferry. I might be wrong.
Is, yeah.
One of the questions that he asked him, or a few of the questions, is one, am I being productive or just active? So he's telling him to ask himself this question. The other one is, am I investing in things to do just to avoid the important? Mm-hmm. And I think that's very much what you're already talking about. And then also, like the main thing he tells him to ask himself is, if this is the only thing I accomplished today, will I be satisfied with my day?
That's like probably like the biggest one for me out of like the whole like case study section of like this chapter.
Yeah,
that's one question that I'll like bookmark and like try to ask myself. Now I try to ask myself every day, like, if this is the only thing that I do today, can I still consider this a productive day?
Right. And like, when you finish that one thing, are you able to really sit there and say like you're satisfied with your day?
Yeah. At least for like, was that a rhetorical question or an actual question?
No, it was rhetorical.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, you can answer though if you want. I mean,
no, I mean, yeah, like most of the times, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's an issue that just a ton of people have, at least in college, like people around our age.
Yeah.
I feel like it's either two sides of the same coin, but there's people that kind of just like will do absolutely nothing, and they'll just sit around doing nothing on their phones, looking at reels all day.
Yeah.
And they do it just to like keep themselves busy, looking at, as long as they're doing something.
Yeah.
And then there's also people that fill their day up with so much just for the sake of being able to tell people that they have so much shit that they have to do.
Yeah. When you say like just for the sake of it, do you think they take pride in being that busy, or what?
I would say they take pride, but I think at the same time, I think it's also comes from an element of like they're avoiding something.
Yeah, and that kind of circles back to the second one, right? The avoid the important.
Yeah. Like, and sometimes it's not even something that is like monetary.
Yeah.
Or like, it's more just like something mentally that they have to think about and actually figure out for themselves.
Yeah.
And working on shit avoids that.
Yeah, I agree. Circling back to the laws, the second law. So the Pareto's law is what we covered earlier about the 80-20 rule, pretty much. The second law is called Parkinson's law, and essentially it's just all about, from what I understood, it just sounds like it's talking about procrastination.
Yeah.
Really. It says that the official definition that the book gave is that Parkinson's law dictates that a task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allotted for its completion.
Yep.
So I feel like a lot of, especially college students, can relate to this. Like, they ever got the paper or the test, and they had 3 weeks to study or 3 weeks to do it, and they're like, holy shit, it's due tomorrow night. Or like, fuck, I got my test tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly that becomes like their whole life. They pop Red Bulls, they stay up all night. I was there last semester, staying up all night.
I'm still there.
Yeah.
So I still do that shit.
So, and then the book also just talks about combining the two.
Yeah, exactly. They combine them.
How you identify like the few critical tasks that contribute the most of either income, enjoyment, happiness, productivity, whatever.
Which is like Pareto's law, the 80-20.
Yeah, and then you schedule them with very short and clear deadlines.
Yep.
And that's where the Parkinson's law comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I'm definitely going to try.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Mm.
One, I find myself, especially right now, being extremely busy with a lot of shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I do have to do some reassessing on those things, on what is that 20% that I should start to cut out, and what is actually contributing the most to my life.
Yeah.
So that I can give myself some more time.
Yeah.
And then also those things that I need to get done. Now, obviously, something that Ferry goes into when it comes to the Parkinson's law is that if you work a 9-to-5 job, you're not really in a position where you can say, I'm only going to be working on work for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that I get the most work done, and then the next like 8 hours I'm just gonna sit around.
No. I need to be playing solitaire right now. It makes me more effective.
Yeah.
You need to believe me.
Trust me, boss.
Trust me,
boss. I need to do this in a short amount of time, and just leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, I will not be productive.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess moving into like the final thing for the book.
Yeah, this chapter.
Not the book, there's this chapter, we're not there yet, but is this kind of concept of information fasting. So it's basically just Ferry talking about how it's a good idea and essential to kind of limit how much information you force yourself to ingest.
See, that one was a little lost on me. I mean, you should expand on this one.
You need me to expand on this one?
Yeah.
Because
you're the one who added this one to the doc.
Yeah, it's basically what he's talking about is that everybody in this day and age, especially, like, will always want something going on their phone that they're looking at. Either like maybe it's a YouTube video while they're taking a shit, like maybe it's a podcast while they're cooking. Mm-hmm. Not this podcast though.
No, this one's okay.
Yeah,
this
listen
is like
to this
the
one.
exception to it. I'm pretty sure.
We're helping you.
Yeah,
so listen to this podcast. Maybe it's my parents, for example, always have the news on.
Yeah,
all the time, and they're just force feeding themselves information.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, I guarantee if I were to go to ask them about anything that they like watched on the news, they'd probably have like 5 minutes worth of stuff they actually remembered.
Yeah.
And for me, watching like YouTube videos all day, there's probably like 2 minutes worth of like funny jokes that I can remember from all of my day of like just force feeding myself information. And he also talks about like the types of books that he will go out of his way to read when it comes to nonfiction, at least. And he says that he would only kind of read autobiographical. Is that how you say it?
You're the one who typed it in, man. Don't be looking at me.
All right. Autobiographical accounts. So basically just authors that he's done the research and they have proven that what they are writing about, they actually have something worth learning from.
Yeah.
Rather than like these finance gurus and stuff that just like act like, and then they rent out a Lamborghini or a private jet.
Yeah.
And they say like, look what I have, like you can get this too. When the reality is that the people that follow their accounts are what is actually funding what they're doing.
It's all about knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And they try to act like they have all of this, but they don't. Which kind of talks, like, to me, made me think of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Really?
Because I still don't know if that's even true. Well, when I saw that article that said that, like,
he was in debt.
Yeah, he was like millions of dollars in debt.
Yeah,
Rich Dad Poor Dad, the guy that wrote that book. It was like, wait a minute, are you an author that proved your shit? Because why are you in so much debt right now?
Yeah,
if you know all this about being rich.
See, the rich dad forgot to teach him about tax evasion. That's why.
Yeah, is that what happened? Was it taxes?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't know what it was actually.
Okay,
but I don't know, man.
But yeah, and then when it comes to the reading and stuff, and yeah, you're gonna jump on this as I already know you're gonna jump on this as
yeah.
All right, but he brings up these points on how to read like 200% faster.
Interesting.
All right, and I don't know if this is active reading.
Okay,
maybe it is. I don't know, but it has been working. Like I've been using it. Well, I used it while finishing the rest of the chapter. I noticed that I was a lot faster.
Originally, we were supposed to record this yesterday.
Yeah.
And like the night before, you're like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna read the rest of the chapter." I'm like a couple pages in, and I was like, "Dude, this is like a 20-page chapter, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?"
Yeah. As soon as I got to this point of the book and I started using like the concepts, I was reading a lot faster.
So go for the people who haven't read the book. What's a couple of the concepts that you've been using?
Yeah. So the first main one is when you're reading through lines on a page, instead of going all the way to like the beginning and the first word of each line, you like go 3 words in. So you're kind of like, you're basically taking advantage of your peripheral vision while reading.
Okay.
Which is a concept that I had not even thought about.
Yeah, I've never heard of that either.
Like I've always focused on narrowing my eyes directly on the word, and that's the word I'm reading.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it does make sense to use your peripheral vision at all times.
Yeah.
Like walking around, you always have it active. So why not do it reading? And then I think the next concept has to do with just kind of like slowly being able to bring in your like mental margins, so to speak.
Okay.
And going like 5 words in instead of 2 words.
Oh, so like slowly creeping your way in.
Yeah, until you can get to the point, and then the concept that he brings up is called like snapshot reading. And it's like you basically are just going line by line, looking at like the same spot, but you're taking mini snapshots of what the full sentence is.
Yeah.
Which he says takes a lot of practice. I'm definitely not there.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get to that point because I hate reading because I feel like it takes forever.
Yeah.
And that's why I like watching movies and shit.
Oh, I see.
But if I could read a page just by like scanning like a fucking fax machine.
So when you watch a movie, do you have subtitles on or no?
I mean, it depends on the movie.
Oh, okay, I see.
If I'm watching some anime, I got some subtitles on. I got subs.
Right.
I don't know Japanese.
That's fair. That's fair.
But if it's like other movies like Christopher Nolan, shout out Christopher Nolan. Love that guy. I don't need subtitles. I'm more a visual guy anyways.
I see.
I like watching the movie.
I was going to try make a point that when you're watching subtitles, it's pretty similar to snapshot reading. And then I realized you're also hearing it at the same time. So I was like, never mind, that's stupid.
God, what an idiot.
Who gave this idiot a microphone?
Okay. And then another concept that they brought up is the art of not finishing.
Okay.
And just because I feel like we're getting a little long here. I don't know how long. Oh, no. We're only at 24 minutes. But I guess the other one was 5, so we're probably half an hour.
Nice.
Anyways, the art of not finishing. This is something to me that honestly, I've always been kind of insecure about not being able to finish. Don't take this out of context. All right. Don't take this out of context. But
having trouble finishing.
Yeah. But my point is that
you've been stressed out a lot lately?
No. When it comes to reading books or starting a course or going through a YouTube video, I always tell myself that it's because I have ADHD or something, and that's why I can't finish. I'll get to the very end, I'll get bored, and I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
this is the first time that I've seen something on the opposite, saying that like it's okay and it's in fact encouraged to not finish. Like
Okay.
being used to, once you get what you need to out of what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
stop, rather than being so focused on finishing each time.
I would agree. I think, not to bring up active reading,
Oh God.
but it's pretty similar in the sense of like if I'm looking at an article and there's a summary and it's like a 4-page article, but there's a summary on the first page. Like
Yeah.
after I read that summary, I'm tossing that shit. Like
Yeah.
because like if the writer's good, I'm like yeah, I'm sure I'll skim through the rest of the article to make sure there wasn't anything I missed. But like if the writer's good, everything I should need is in that summary, and it's basically what you were talking about. It's like the art of not finishing.
Yeah. And like I know some people that will kind of just sit there all day, just focus on just finishing what task that they like kind of assign themselves, even though they've already gotten 90% of the like results or like reward, I guess, from doing it. Or more like 99%, honestly, and that last 1% is what they're spending so much time trying to get. When in reality they could just stop and go on to something else.
I see.
But I think there's a kind of a shame to
Of not finishing.
And when like you go and tell someone like, yeah, I never got to the end type thing, where more so you should be like, take pride in the fact that you got everything you needed to.
I guess my question to that would be like, can this concept apply to something that like doesn't necessarily have like an end? You know what I mean? For like, because the example that came up in my mind was like working out. Like typically the way I structure my workouts is I'll have like whatever muscle groups I'm trying to hit, and I'll try to go for like 3 different like exercises or machines per like muscle group. And like on like days where it's like chest, shoulders, and like triceps, that's up to like 9, like with 9 exercises with 4 sets and however many reps in each set.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of like shit. And like there would be times where I would just be like, man, I'm just too fucking tired for this. I'll just go home. And I'll leave with like 2 or 3 exercises still on the table. And like a lot of the times I'll feel ashamed because I was like, man, I couldn't like finish that shit.
I mean,
So in a situation where like, because like theoretically I could be in the gym for 5 hours if I wanted to.
Right.
Like there's no definition end to that. So how do you think that like applies to the art of not finishing?
I think it's more, I think it just goes back to that if this is the only thing I accomplished today, will I be satisfied with my day? I think it's the same concept. Like if you can define for yourself and say that you're satisfied with what your workout was, then you should be good to go. But if you're done and like you're saying you feel like guilty or ashamed because you're not leaving satisfied, then you probably should have accomplished what you set out to.
Yeah. I feel like that's where it's like it's really dangerous though, because I feel like a lot of people have like conditioned themselves where they don't feel satisfied unless they finish something.
True.
Unless they read like every word of that book, you know what I mean?
True. And I think that's why he does say it is like an art, like it is something that you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
As the artist, so to speak.
Ah, the artiste.
Artiste. And then I think the last thing just from the book that was on, or 2 more things actually.
Yeah.
One was I just wrote down, act like a little kid begging for shit.
What you begging for?
So I think this part was basically just being able to convince people to kind of do things that you want them to do when it comes to like either your boss or like your employees, where like as a kid you would go to your parents and say like, please, like I'll never ask for anything again, like just this once, let's just try it, like just once.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I think as adults we don't do that anymore, because I mean obviously you don't want to phrase it like that because you're not a little kid. Okay.
Pretty please.
Yeah. You don't want to hit
once.
You don't hit your boss with the pretty please.
Pretty please.
Please, boss. Please, pretty please.
So you're saying like, I guess, like a test trial. People don't really test trial shit no more.
Yeah. Well,
like,
it's harder.
Give me one chance.
It should be what he says is that it's easy to convince people to do test trials as long as you make it clear to them that it's like, let's just try this one thing. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the way we did before.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really having that much to lose.
Yeah.
Like, he uses it as something. There's like the puppy concept or something. He says something about puppies.
Oh, about the puppy store sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where basically it's the concept of like if you own a pet store and people are trying to buy a puppy, which is a pretty big like responsibility.
Yeah.
You don't phrase it be like, yeah, do you want this thing? You have to like pick up its shit every day
for like
and,
10 years.
Yeah, and walk it and like take care of it like a kid.
Yeah.
Or they
You
say
have to
like,
watch it die eventually too.
damn,
Sorry. I'll just say it. That happens.
you are never working in a pet store ever. or you can tell them to be like, hey, just take the puppy home. If it's not working out, if you guys don't like it, you guys can always bring it back.
Yeah, and nobody brings it back.
No one you're gonna feel like a dick bringing back a puppy.
Yeah, like, what's wrong with you? You can't take care of a damn puppy?
That's messed
Look
up,
at that
man.
cute little puppy. You're gonna give that shit back?
Unbelievable.
But yeah, no, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
It's just use that when it comes to like trying to get somebody to do something.
So in like an everyday situation, what's an example you can see using that?
Anal.
Oh.
We are pivoting.
All right.
I'm just gonna hit it with the pretty please.
Pretty please.
Please, just this one time, and then we'll go back to normal.
Yeah. Can we try it this once?
We're
Pretty
just
please?
gonna try it, and after that point, we can go back. It's fine. Like, don't stress out about it. All right,
Oh my god. All right. I'll use that one next time.
that's it.
Throwing that one in the book.
All right, moving on to the last little quote here that I wrote down.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how someone's IQ doubles as soon as you give them responsibility and signify that you trust them. To me, this is something that like I kind of learned from being in the fraternity, actually.
Okay. Do you learn it in your time as Archon or just like overall, just whatever positions you held?
I think it was just overall.
Yeah.
Because definitely going in and even into like Archon or President or whatever.
Yeah.
I know I'm somebody who micromanages.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I know that I get that from my parents.
Mhm.
And once I was actually able to kind of sit back and just kind of give people responsibility like blindly,
Yeah.
one, it became like easier for me like mentally to just kind of do my own shit and
Yeah.
just be like, well, this is not my responsibility. And even right now, I think it honestly took for me not being president anymore. Like even when I was president and especially going through like our fucking suspension and all that shit,
Yeah.
I was still doing everything as much as I could myself.
Yeah.
Because I only trusted myself and
Mhm.
trust issues or whatever. But once I'm not president anymore now, I can just kind of sit back and like actually for the first time be able to completely say like, this is not my responsibility.
Yeah.
This is somebody else's. They can figure it out. And I think the big thing on here too is saying that you signify that you trust them.
Not my chair, not my problem.
Yeah. I mean, not my chair, not my problem, but also telling the person who has the chair, like, you can handle that chair.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, when you have faith, when somebody sits there and tells you that, like, I'm
believe in you.
trusting you, I believe in you that you can do this,
Yeah.
you feel a lot more motivated to actually follow through with what they're trusting you with.
Yeah. It feels empowering.
Yeah. And that was the main point with that quote, I think, in the book, too, was being an empowering CEO rather than a micromanaging CEO.
Yeah.
And I'm making that change for the rest of my life now. It's, I'm
Just like that.
Just like that. I will never micromanage again.
Wow.
Changed man. Thank you, Ferry.
Perfect.
Okay. So I just had like 4 other topics on here, but they're kind of
Couple
quick.
Small ones. Yeah.
They are not from the book. So we're just going to be yapping a little bit.
Let's hear it.
First one, the Rich Habits podcast has been listening to that podcast lately.
Okay.
And they do a great job.
Do they?
They are much more focused on, well, it's exactly what it sounds like, rich habits. Like,
Yeah.
one of the guys is a very senior, like, very experienced when it comes to finances.
Mhm.
And another guy is, I think he's like in his mid-20s, and so was studying finance in college, graduated, and they're basically just going back and forth on what are good habits to like ensure long-lasting wealth.
Okay. So if you had to pick like your number one habit, like your number one rich habit,
Yeah,
that you learned.
I think that the one that stuck with me the most was a stock purchasing rule that he talks about, which
Okay.
is basically like so many people have a consumer mindset, and that's the hardest thing to get out of.
Yeah.
Where once you get money, the first thing you think about is how can I spend this money?
Yeah.
What can I get now that I have this money?
Yeah. Who would do that?
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. I'm looking at him. And the rule that this guy gives to people as advice
Yeah.
is if you're looking at like a brand new like iPhone, right? iPhone's probably run like around $1,000 right now.
It's about $1,000.
And everybody always wants to have the newest one.
Yeah.
Like every time a new generation comes out, I think as people get older, they start to like not do it as much. But especially in like high school, coming into college, you see somebody with a new iPhone, you want to also have the new iPhone too.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be out of like place or something.
Yeah. You don't want to be a fucking loser.
Yeah. So instead, it's say that $1,000 iPhone, don't go buy it unless you can also put $1,000 into Apple stock.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like that old rule of like, if you can't buy it twice, you can't buy it.
Yeah, but it's like that too, and then also like, you're already providing that company with income and profit. So why not profit from that income yourself?
Interesting. So is this, I guess, every time this guy go to McDonald's, does he buy McDonald's stock?
Yeah, exactly. Every time I'm hungry and I want a fucking McDouble or I want a
Yeah.
cheese gordita from Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Taco Bell, you're getting $20 in stock also.
Dude,
I'm buying stock from you.
I'm gonna be Panda Express's majority stockholder by the end of the month.
Exactly.
man.
Exactly.
It's over.
No, but in all seriousness, I think it's more supposed to be focused on like the luxury excess purchases people make, like brand new pair of headphones.
Okay.
They cost like $600. If you don't really need those headphones and you want them, don't buy them until you can also put the same amount of money into the company that you're already taking from.
Yeah.
You might as well get something out of it too.
I see.
And then you're also building a portfolio of investments at the same time
Interesting.
of a company that is so popular that just by looking at somebody else having it, you want it. So it's
Oh,
obviously
that's-
doing a pretty good job.
Say that's something I didn't even consider about like the whole
Yeah.
purchasing rule. That's smart. I didn't
Yeah.
think about that.
And I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any big purchases coming up just yet, but when I do,
Yeah.
I'm going to sit there and say, do I really need this? And do I really want this? Like, is it really that important that I get it? And if it is, just double it and then give it to the next person.
Double it. Yeah.
Double it.
Think of the double it.
And then this is just a debate thing that I want to talk a little bit about, and then we'll get to this last one because I know you want to talk about it, or you want to hear about it.
Yeah.
First off, though, while we were watching Silicon Valley, this occurred to me.
Okay.
I'm like thinking far ahead.
Yeah.
Starting your company, it gets super it's successful, and then you have to hand it over to a board of directors who can kick you out at any time.
Yeah.
How, like,
Scary.
are you on board with that? Would you want to have a board of directors take over at that point?
See, like, luckily the nice thing about having an LLC is you don't need a board of directors. You just kind of do your own thing.
Right.
But if you do scale to such an extent that you turn into like a corporation,
Yeah.
then having that board of directors must be like frightening, man.
Yeah.
At that point, honestly, I think I just might put myself on the board and
And let somebody else
let someone
take
else
over.
take the wheel, because the board is top of the pyramid.
Yeah. And it's a bunch of people that like they're not actually running the company. They don't see all the stuff that as CEO you have to deal with.
They just
They
make
can
sure,
like if they wanted to, but realistically, they're usually people that will just kind of sit back and like I'm only gonna say something if my money's getting affected.
yeah, they just make sure the shareholders are getting their value from it.
Right. That's a lot of pressure. It's hard to take risks, I feel like, with the board of directors.
Oh yeah, dude, it's like the ultimate backseat driver.
Yeah. And that's such a pain in the fucking ass.
I can imagine, dude. Yeah.
Having like 8 people just constantly like every like move you make, if it's not perfectly like going upwards,
Yeah.
they're on your ass.
That's insane. Imagine having to do like your 5th meeting of the day, and these guys are like, "Yeah, you just did everything wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fuck off to my yacht now later, idiot."
Yeah. It's like you're going in the complete wrong direction. We don't like it anymore. Fix it. We're firing you else.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. Okay, well, can you like tell me how to? Nah, no, just
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah, they're not really there to give you suggestions. They're just
No.
there to tell you to shoot down your ideas.
Exactly.
That sounds terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
No, yeah, that's why like
I think I'd be on board with the same thing you said, where I'd just either join the board of directors or just step down and sell. Not
Yeah.
because like I've given up my company, but more so it's like I got everything, I got it to where I wanted it to.
And at that point, it's funny enough because at that point you just completely contradicted yourself in the point of starting a company. 'Cause I feel like a lot of people start companies because they don't want to be working for somebody else.
Right.
Whereas once you get to that level, even as CEO, you, in a way, you are working for the board.
It's like a snake that eats its own tail type thing.
It is.
It just goes back to you're working for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, technically, like once you get to like a certain extent, like, well, you're working for the shareholders, but like,
Yeah.
there's no overhead above you. Like, yeah, like the shareholders, like they determine your value, and that's where you get a lot of your income. But at the same time, you don't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah. I think personally I'm more I inclined and like obsessed with the idea of building companies to the point where like I'm making a ton of money from it,
Yeah.
but then like it's just something that can function on its own. And that comes to with the board of directors thing. Like if I get to the point where like my company is so massive and it needs a board of directors to run that represent all my shareholders, I'll probably just step out and go start something else.
Yeah.
Because I think the stuff that's more interesting to me and like exciting is the actual building process.
Yeah, and I feel like that's really tough because like especially like with something like a company, like that's your baby, man. Like you put to get to that level, so many hours of like hard work and like sacrifice have to be put in.
Yeah.
And to be able to like step away like that, to be like, all right, I'm done.
Well, it's definitely, I feel like it would definitely be hard the first time.
Oh, 100%.
I think, but I do think after, like once you start getting on like that role of just being the company builder,
Yeah.
it just becomes like second nature. It's just, you know, although I can see that being some bad character traits for a dad.
Yeah.
Like you're so used to building something up, and then as soon as it gets good, you're out of there.
Just dipping out. Yeah.
I don't think that should transfer at all. But,
Oh no, but you're gonna be like those farmers who don't name their animals.
yeah,
They was like, yeah, this is company number 36.
yeah, no love.
Yeah. No, exactly.
No.
Just every logo is just a black square.
Yeah. No, and I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
That idea of board of directors just to begin with.
Yeah.
But we'll just go into this last thing because I know
Okay.
we might be yapping about it just a little bit.
Probably.
The idea of being useful versus being used. So this is something that I've struggled with, like just with a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
Even stemming back from just being a baseball player, like
Yeah.
being a pitcher.
Okay.
The arm always feeling like I was being used for my arm. And then it getting to the point where I got used so much that my arm was not broken, but broken.
Yeah, it
you know,
broke.
like I had got a labrum tear, I had to get it fixed, and I couldn't throw anymore.
Yeah.
And I think what I told you yesterday when we were talking about this was,
Yeah.
like a reliable tool will always be used. And the way I explained that, like yesterday, was just that like a hammer, I think was the example I used, or like a metaphor
Yeah, like a hammer.
that like once you know that the hammer is always going to be there to break or to like put the nail into the wall, you're not really going to think about taking care of the hammer because you know it's always going to do its job.
Yeah.
So you just consistently use it because it's reliable. You know it's not going to, it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And I think people do that to each other. Like whether it's with me with the chapter sometimes,
Yeah.
where people get used to, it's not in the chapter, honestly. I feel like it happens at work too. And it probably happens at work for you or other people that are employees, that like they do their job so well to the point and all the time and consistently
Yeah.
that their boss will just start throwing shit at them and just be like, yeah, well, they'll
can
they'll
handle
do
it.
it. Yeah, they can handle it. I know he's going to do it. Even and with a complete disregard for how that person is like actually feeling about doing those things,
Yeah.
because all they need to do is get the nail in the wall.
Because they're expendable.
Yeah. So I think the other concept that goes against that is just being useful.
Okay.
And I think for me, that's just the fact that I think one, for the people that are feeling like they do get used,
Yeah.
on the bright side, I would say that at least like you are useful. You obviously are useful if you're being used. I think it's just more so you need to assign value to what you're being used for.
Interesting.
And get something out of it of equal value.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Going back to like the hammer metaphor.
Yeah.
For those people who are kind of hearing it and like they're starting to realize like, oh shit, maybe I am the hammer. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How would they go? How would they correct their course? Do they find another owner, or do they be a sturdier hammer?
No, I think it's more so not being the tool anymore. You have to get to the point where, like, you're no longer seen as the hammer. You know, you're no longer seen as somebody that will always be there to do that thing for that person.
So I guess another question to like.
But when you do that for the person, you're gonna do it better than anybody else. It's just they're lucky to have you do those things.
I see. So is it an accessibility issue then, when it comes to useful versus being used?
What do you mean?
So in the sense, if we're trying to go back to, I guess, the hammer metaphor. Hammer, you use the hammer every day, you don't give a fuck about it. It's being used.
Right.
If you can only use the hammer once a month, would you argue that's useful to be used?
I think maybe it's like, if we're sticking on the metaphor side of things, maybe like, don't be owned as the tool. Be rented.
I see.
Like,
okay.
have somebody have to like consistently come back and ask if it's okay to use you again, rather than that person owns your time and what you do, or like what results you produce.
I see what you mean. I feel like for some people this can kind of get into some like murky water in a sense when it comes to like, for example, I feel like a lot of people in like relationships, let's say, with like their girlfriend,
Right.
or boyfriend, whatever. You can't necessarily take that same approach because you guys are dating. You guys are going to be around each other more often. And like, maybe it's like an unspoken rule of dating that like, hey, I'm supposed to be here for you. You can't just like be like, oh, sorry, you can only rent me out for a little bit this month or like this week.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. At least for me, I've when it comes to dating, like, I don't ever want to be in a spot where I'm doing something just because I'm dating that person.
Like what? Can you like give an example?
Well, I mean, if my girlfriend, so to speak, right, is going through a really tough time in their life, I don't want my reason for being there for her because she's my girlfriend. Like, I feel like it needs to be because I actually love her and I want to be with her in that time in her life, rather than it being like expected because that's what I signed up for, you know?
I get what you're trying to say. I feel like that's kind of like roped in to like being someone's like spouse or whatever, or not spouse, partner, whatever you want to call it.
I'd say extremely long term. Like if you're with someone for like 20 years and they're that's your wife, then it's like, yeah, you got to put up with some bullshit. But when it's your girlfriend and you've been dating for maybe like 2 or 3 years, and like you're starting to notice that there's shit that like
there's a pattern going on.
Yeah, you're just putting up with stuff just because you have to.
Yeah,
I say you get the fuck out. Respectfully, you do it. Like obviously you're not cheating and shit, but like. That's when people usually should be getting out of the relationship.
So for I guess all the hammers who are
all the hammers
out there. All the hammers out there.
All the hammers.
Shout out to all my hammers. Yeah. All my hammers. What activities are like most commonly associated with like being used? Would you say that maybe they're not noticing, whether it's they're looking through rose-colored glasses at a certain relationship?
I mean, I would
situation.
I would say it depends. I feel like guy hammers, get those male hammers out there.
Yeah,
they get used for their time.
Okay,
like their time and protection and patience and shit. So that's usually the stuff that gets used for the dudes out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say for women, but I don't know for sure because I'm not going to assume I know things about women. Okay.
Third disclaimer of the podcast.
Yeah, third disclaimer. Number 3. It's for their looks or their body.
Yeah.
Like, they get used for producing like an attention to them and what's around them. Or like for physical pleasure type things.
Yeah.
I would say those are the two for me that I see people usually commonly get used for.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is pretty similar to like what you already said, because I feel like it kind of ropes into, it's just a general overarching term, but like for guys, I feel like it's just attention. Or it's like what they get used for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like the guy hammers out there.
Yeah.
It's the attention hammers.
Yeah.
So whether that be like time, money, patience, whatever.
Just anything that is being focused on them when it could be focused on something else.
Yeah.
Or somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
And the girl side of things is they're usually being used for that pleasure, and and I think that is kind of assuming that like it's like a guy being used by a girl or a girl being used by a guy.
Yeah.
But I do think at the same time, I think it still goes that way. Like I've seen girls at our school only want to be around another girl because they're pretty or they're hot, and then it's like, oh, I'm surrounded by other girls that are pretty, so I must be also like increased in status
like
too.
Like law of association or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And guys do the same thing to each other too, where like you get a guy to do a bunch of shit for you, you get to sit there like in your head and say, I just made that dude my bitch type thing.
I see.
And like that's, I think gender aside, like those are like uses of each gender, I guess. So I don't know why I said gender aside.
Yeah, putting it back on.
Yeah, gender aside, but also about gender though.
Yeah, bringing it back.
Yeah. So yeah, final PSA, I guess, of today's episode.
Okay.
For all the hammers out there.
For all the hammers out there.
Start waking the fuck up and realizing that you are being used, and make yourself more valuable. Don't let yourself get owned. If the easiest way to at least start getting out of it is to start being rented. Get leased as the hammer.
I would agree. I think there is an underlying, I guess, like message there that I don't want to get like misconstrued on your part, because I feel like a lot of like self-improvement like gurus or whatever, or like especially on like when it comes to like the guy side of things, is they're always on their like go on your winter arc.
Oh yeah,
just go to the gym, don't even look at a female.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely a balance that needs to be achieved.
Yeah, I mean it's transactional is what it needs to be. Like you're not doing something repeatedly and being used. Like if you're being used, you're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah,
like you can step back and realize like, why am I continuously doing this shit for like this boss or this girl or this guy when I'm not getting anything out of it. Yeah. Like I'm just being taken advantage of. Those are the people that I'm seeing, or that I would say were like the hammers.
The hammers. I would agree. I feel like a lot of hammers though, I feel like they fool themselves into thinking they're getting something out of it.
Yeah. I would say so too.
Because I feel like there is like maybe 1% of the population, maybe 5%. I'll bump it up a bit. Maybe 5% of the population that is like okay with them being used like consciously.
Yeah.
But
bunch of subs.
Yeah, bunch of weirdos.
God.
Ugh.
Simps, man. Fuck those people.
But there's like everybody else in an extent who are being used. I feel like they justify it in some way. Either they like ignore it, or subconsciously ignore it, or they come up with like flimsy reasons to explain why they're not. While they're like, oh well, yeah, I gave her like $500 for her nails, but like she sent me a picture 7 hours after I sent it, so she must like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they come up with like flimsy excuses.
I could see that. I think it really just takes time of being able to actually like reassess what you're being used for and is if it's actually worth it. And little trick for everybody out there,
Okay.
if your friend group and the people that actually are looking out for you are consistently saying that you're being used or taken advantage of, you probably are.
Okay.
So
for all the hammers out there, take notes.
yeah. So
Take notes.
don't ignore the people around you that are actually looking out for you just
Yeah.
because
they do see it from an angle or perspective that you're not seeing.
that doesn't have any emotion involved.
Yeah, like it's a lot easier to like watch a soccer game from above than while you're inside the game itself. Like
Right.
it's so like for all my FIFA players out there, like
Gross.
yeah, there's like so many passes and shit you see when you have your camera angle up top. Whereas like if it was like a first person game, like Call of Duty or something, it'd be a lot harder to see like the passing lanes. And it's like just the importance of a different perspective.
Yeah. Take that other perspective.
Yeah,
All right.
really important.
Well, I think we're going to bring this one to an end here. Thank you for joining us on our part 2, our second podcast, even though it's kind of the
Our
first.
second part 1.
Yeah, our second part 1.
Yep. Part 1, part 2.
If you're lucky, maybe we'll show you part 1, and you can hear me breathe on repeat the whole time.
It's part podcast, part ASMR.
Yeah. I don't have no stupid signing off shit, so see ya.